Ever get to the end of the day and you're like, whoa, I've been running around like crazy, but what did I actually do? That feeling where the things that really matter get totally buried under all the stress and distractions.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. It's like you're constantly busy, but not really making any real progress on what actually matters.
Exactly. So today we're going to dive deep into how to escape that trap. We're going to explore how to start making real time instead of just feeling busy all the time.
Love that. Making real time.
Right. And to help us unpack all of this, we've got two amazing books we're pulling from. First up, Better Under Pressure by Justin Menkes.
Oh, Menkes is fantastic. He really gets into the nitty-gritty of how amazing leaders operate in these high-pressure, crazy demanding environments.
And then we've got Mark Divine's Unbeatable Mind, which, coming from his Navy SEAL background, is all about developing that mental toughness, how to perform at your best when everything feels like it's going sideways.
The perfect combo. Because Menkes gives you that high-level leadership perspective, and Divine gives you the tactical tools to actually put it into practice.
So as you listen today, I want you to really think about what you can take away from these two incredibly insightful perspectives.
Think about it like this. How can you, listening right now, step off that treadmill of busyness, gain some serious clarity about what actually matters, perform when the pressure is on, and really make sure your time and energy are going towards what you truly value?
Exactly. It's about moving beyond just reacting to whatever comes at you and starting to really shape your day in a way that aligns with your most important goals.
Proactive instead of reactive. I love that.
So let's start by breaking down this whole idea of being busy, because it's almost like it's become a badge of honor, right? But Menkes, he hits on something super important. This idea that constant activity can actually mask a lack of focus on what truly matters.
Totally. Being busy doesn't automatically mean you're being productive. You could be doing a million things, but if they're not aligned with what's truly important, you're essentially just spinning your wheels.
And Menkes is really big on this idea that truly great leaders, they figure out early on how to identify their core strengths, and then they build everything around that disciplined pursuit of doing something that matters.
Right. It's about being intentional, not just filling up your schedule with any old task.
And then he brings up this concept of the committee of selves, which I found so fascinating. It's like we all have these competing desires and impulses, this internal tug of war.
Oh, absolutely. It's that constant battle between what we should do, what we want to do, what we think we should want to do. It's exhausting.
So how do those exceptional leaders, the ones Menkes talks about, how do they navigate that inner conflict? How do they avoid getting swept up in the chaos and stay focused on what's meaningful?
Well, Menkes gives this great example of Rick, who had a lot of great things going on in his life, but still felt this pull, this yearning for the challenge of leading a large organization. It's like even when you've got a lot of good stuff going on, there can still be that one thing, that big, audacious goal that just keeps calling to you.
So what sets these great leaders apart is that they develop this incredibly strong sense of purpose, almost like a North Star, that guides them through all those internal battles and conflicting priorities.
Right, that purpose becomes the filter through which they make decisions. It helps them prioritize and align their actions, even when those internal committee members are screaming for different things.
And that really resonates with something Divine talks about. The monkey mind, that feeling of just mental chaos.
Oh, the monkey mind. It's the worst. It's that state where your thoughts are just jumping all over the place, constantly distracting you from what you're trying to focus on.
And he's really emphasizing the importance of cultivating a disciplined mind. He calls it a calm, clear, steady ally.
It's not about suppressing all thoughts. It's about learning to control where you direct your attention. It's about training your mind to be this powerful tool that helps you achieve your goals, rather than a constant source of distraction.
And both Menkes and Divine, in their own ways, really emphasize this sense of urgency. Menkes is all about acting with an awareness of your circumstances, and Divine has this powerful phrase, "Yesterday is gone, tomorrow is not guaranteed." It really hits home that today is all we've got.
It's so easy to get caught up in the past or worry about the future, but ultimately the present moment is the only place where we have any real control.
So we've got to make the most of it. So we've talked about this trap of busyness, the importance of focused action. Now let's dive into how to actually perform, even thrive, when the pressure is on. Menkes argues that the best leaders, they consistently get peak performance from themselves and their teams, even in the midst of constant change and stress. It almost sounds superhuman.
It does, doesn't it? But Menkes argues it's not some innate superpower. It's a learned skill, a skill that we can all develop.
So how do they do it?
Well, one thing Menkes points out is the importance of bringing external challenges to the forefront. Not to create panic, but to actually galvanize action. He talks about A.G. Lafley wanting his team to feel the hot breath of the consumer, to really understand the real-world stakes of their work, and let that fuel their drive to succeed.
So it's about turning that pressure into purpose, understanding that the work you're doing actually matters.
Exactly. And Divine, he adds another layer to this with his concepts of eustress versus distress. He's saying that stress itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's our relationship with stress that matters.
That's a really important distinction.
Right. So Divine argues that factors like your expectations, how prepared you feel, and your overall resilience, they all influence how you experience stress. If you feel overwhelmed and unprepared, that's when stress turns into distress. But when you feel challenged, but also capable, that's when stress can actually become a positive force, eustress.
And that ties in perfectly with what Menkes says about great leaders learning to use stress as a motivator. He even talks about how adrenaline, when channeled properly, can unlock unexpected levels of performance.
He gives that great example of Swedish, who learned to use past experiences of admitting vulnerability to stay calm under pressure in the future. So it's about building that self-belief, that competence, even when things are intense.
And Menkes also stresses the importance of maintaining clarity of thought under pressure. He calls it affect tolerance regarding fear, which essentially means being able to dampen those anxious emotions so you can think straight.
And that's where Divine's practical techniques come in. He introduces this amazing tool called box breathing, which is incredibly effective for calming your mind and regulating your nervous system.
Box breathing, I love that. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Super simple, but incredibly effective.
It's amazing how something so basic can have such a profound impact on your physiological state. It helps you shift from that reactive, stressed out mode to a calmer, more focused state.
So we've talked about managing stress. Now let's shift gears and talk about the internal drive that keeps us moving forward, even when things get tough. Menkes calls this the drive to solve the puzzle.
Yeah, that need to take on challenges, that curiosity, and that thirst for knowledge that fuels so many great leaders.
And he illustrates this beautifully with the story of A.G. Lafley actually traveling to Brazil to figure out why a new detergent launch had failed. He didn't just sit in his office and analyze reports. He wanted to see it firsthand, to really understand the context.
That's what separates the good from the great. That willingness to go deep, to really immerse yourself in the problem and understand it from all angles.
And Menkes talks about Scher's analogy of great CEOs navigating complex situations like a flow sport, where they just intuitively know the game and who to pass to. It speaks to the deep level of understanding that comes from experience and continuous learning.
It's not something you're born with, it's something you cultivate over time. It's about developing that deep understanding of your field so you can anticipate challenges and make decisions more intuitively.
And this connects really well with Divine's emphasis on deep awareness, that self-examination piece, really taking the time to understand your own thinking patterns and how you typically react in different situations.
Self-awareness is crucial. It's the foundation. Before you can effectively navigate the external world, you need to understand your own internal landscape.
And Divine introduces this concept of 3-sphere awareness, being aware of your internal self, your external environment, and the interplay between the two.
It's about understanding how your inner world influences your perception of the outer world, and how the outer world, in turn, influences your inner state.
And he then gives us this really interesting idea of winning the 3 fights. The fight in your own mind, the fight against the actual challenge you're facing, and the fight against the system or the broader context.
It's a great framework for approaching any challenge, because it acknowledges that success is not just about addressing the immediate problem, it's about managing your own mindset, navigating the situation effectively, and considering the broader implications of your action.
Okay, so now for a bit of a plot twist. We've been talking a lot about managing complexity, but Divine also makes a really compelling case for embracing simplicity. He argues that sometimes we actually gravitate towards complexity as a way of avoiding what truly matters.
It's so true. We get caught up in all these unnecessary complications and we lose sight of what's really important.
And Divine suggests that by simplifying our lives, by reducing those unnecessary commitments, decluttering our possessions, maybe even letting go of relationships that aren't serving us, we can free up so much mental and emotional energy.
It's about creating space, both internally and externally, to focus on what truly matters.
And he even brings in the ancient Greek wisdom of everything in moderation. It's about finding that balance, not getting bogged down by things that don't add value.
Simplicity is not about deprivation, it's about intentionality. It's about consciously choosing what you let into your life and what you let go of.
And this leads perfectly into Divine's one day, one life philosophy. This idea of training yourself to be fully present and ready for each day as if it were your entire lifetime, and really shifting your focus from chasing external success to fulfilling a deeper sense of purpose.
It's about recognizing the preciousness of time and choosing to live each day in a way that aligns with your values and aspirations.
So it all comes full circle, right? By embracing simplicity, by focusing on the present moment, on this today, we can break free from that feeling of unproductive busyness and start to truly invest in what matters most.
It's about taking back control of your time and energy and using them to build a life that is truly meaningful.
So as you go about your day today, ask yourself, am I truly making real time? Am I focusing on what's important, or am I just spinning my wheels, caught in the busy trap?
Think about one small step you can take today to embrace simplicity, to focus on a single, meaningful task.
What's one puzzle you're facing right now? How can you apply these principles of clarity and drive to solve it instead of getting overwhelmed by its complexity?
We've talked about self-awareness, mental discipline, and living with purpose, even under pressure. What resonated most with you today? What questions do you still have about cultivating an unbeatable mind or leading a life of clarity and intention? We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas and see how they can help you move from simply being busy to truly living a meaningful life.
One day, one life.
One day, one life.